And we're back. This fight is not simple, mostly just because it's a very high level enemy. His rating on according to the game, is impossible, which is not 100% accurate. He's just hard. Um, it would really be helpful if I had haste, but I don't, so not much I can do about it. And mostly, what my strategy is just to keep feeding him uh, uh, meat shields because he hits very hard, as you just probably saw with this character. I'll just have her drink up on the potions. And he can probably one-shot my wolves. Oh, she still has one out. There goes Sharmal. Selic is gonna have to... Ooh, she's kind of trapped. Step back a little bit. So this is not hers, so she'll summon another one. And there it goes down. So, what does he have? Well, let's pick it up with the guy who can identify it. Other than just a magic bag and some random junk, it's this Amulet of Natural Armor +3, which is as good as the bark skin that our tank can cast, and a Ring of Protection for +3, both of which make our tank much more sturdy, which is very helpful. Because as you saw in that fight, she's still, even with the defense she has, which is 30 AC, it's not great, but it's not bad. She gets killed pretty quickly. So I'm going to clean up, be right back. So that went better than expected. I ended up using a couple of consumable items, a potion of Cat's Grace, a couple of potions of Barrow's Endurance, just to try and work my way through that fight. I generally try to avoid using consumables, but in some cases it's just the only way to do it. We skipped by the town of Nimber earlier, so I'm going to head back down there and I'll meet you when. So we're back. This is the town of Nimber. You'll notice that I've cast buffs because, yeah, there are in fact things to fight here. I'm going to walk up and have everybody follow. And we'll talk to the captain. And, you know, looks like one of those scenes that should have some great impact on the plot later on, because you can really go either way, but you can choose to fight them or you can choose to let them walk away. But it doesn't, and so you may as well just pick a fight with them and get something out of it. Now there's a wizard and a cleric back here, which should probably be your first targets. Not a hard fight at all. I'm going to clean up and be right back. So just a couple of interesting drops here. This armor gives, it's a breastplate, which is decent base armor, but it gives a bonus to intimidate skill. I'll just give it to my tank because it's lets me use the bracers of armor somewhere else, but it's not very important. There's also a wisdom bonus amulet and a vanilla longsword. There's a merchant here in town that sells some of the more unusual items that you might need. For example, he sells exotic weapons like katanas, but he doesn't sell anything particularly interesting that I'm going to buy at this point. So, the other attraction in Nimber, which is really kind of a boring area, is this lore master's house. And for being a lore master, he really doesn't tell you all that much, but there's some interesting. He keeps some interesting stuff and doesn't seem to mind if you just sort of go in and steal it because, that's what you do in RPGs. You go into people's houses and just take random things because they never seem to mind. Unfortunately, this is locked, so we are going to pick the lock with a sword. And there's an emerald and a drum, which turns out is fairly useless. It can be cast Animate Dead, which is not as useful a spell as it has been in the past. It's definitely not as good as it was in Baldur's Gate. And there's another bookcase over here with just some random scrolls, including another copy of Raised Dead, which we'll give to our cleric, because he's the only one who can cast it. We also get Power Word Knowledge Right, probably the worst spell in the game. So I'll meet you back out on the world map, because there's not much else to do in Nimber. So here we are back out on the world map. I'm actually going to go mining for salt. Well, not really, but I'm going to help other people do it. There are 3 basic resources in the game: wood, ore, and skins. They're used for most of the crafting. There are also exotic resources, some of which have crafting uses, like adamantine is a resource rather than an item in your inventory. And so we'll probably not see any of those anytime soon, but we can get salt up here. We're not actually going to get any, but we will want some eventually. I'm going to take a just sort of detour to this little cave here. There really isn't much going on in this cave, but hey, just for the sense of thoroughness, we'll go in. And here we are. Unfortunately, we're right in the middle of a fight when we start, so get out of the way. This is again sort of a tight area, so the dinosaur is huge, or well, large. Maybe he's huge, but he takes up a lot of space. So he's really not very well suited to close quarters like this, though he does make a good roadblock if you do have enemies coming in from multiple directions. So, I'll clean up, see you back on the map, because that's all there is to this area. There was also a chest in the back of the cave with some random healing items, nothing of interest. We'll walk up the hill here, and sometimes the things you find on the overland map are just XP. Spellcraft in particular tends to do that. There's another side area here, a mine, but I'm not going to bother with it just yet. And we'll just keep running from these... What are these? Ghouls? Yeah, we're not going to play with the ghouls today. And if you run far enough away from enemies, they'll leave you alone. So, here we are at Torek. I'm not actually going to go into the town, but I will heal up, and then head back down here and join you next time for cleaning up the mines in Tarwin.